वेलकम टू चाय चैट विद लवीना। इस वक्त मैं खड़ी हूँ बैलेटर विलेज स्क्वायर में। आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं थोड़ा सा। एक छोटा सा ये गांव है, 213 मीटर की ऊंचाई पर पर्वतों से घिरा हुआ, जहां क्वीन ने अपनी आखिरी सांसें ली। बालमोरल में, जो बस कुछ ही किलोमीटर की दूरी पर यहाँ से है। और क्वीन के लिए ये गांव बहुत ख़ास था। पर्वतों से घिरा हुआ है, छोटा सा शहर है, करीब 1500 लोग रहते होंगे अगर 2020 के कंसेंसस की बात माने तो। और यहाँ पे बचपन से वो अपने माँ बाप के साथ गर्मियों की छुट्टियाँ बिताने आती रही। और जो उनके परिवार वाले लोग हैं वो भी यहाँ आते हैं, लोगों से मिलते हैं, बातचीत करते हैं, लेकिन कोई बताता नहीं है। लेकिन आज छोटा सा खुलासा है, क्योंकि इस गांव की जो एक बहुत ही फैमिली मेंबर की तरह है, परिवार वाले की मृत्यु हुई है। किसी क्वीन, क्या पूरे देश के लिए क्वीन की मृत्यु हुई है, लेकिन इस गांव के लिए उनके परिवार वाले की मृत्यु हुई है, उनके पड़ोसी की मृत्यु हुई है। तो चाय चैट का ये सेगमेंट बैलेटर विलेज पर। I'm standing in the Ballater village square, and behind me you can see the beautiful church. It's the Church of Scotland here in the center of Ballater village, which is just very close to the Balmoral castle where the Queen breathed her last, and a village that has known the Queen as a child and has loved her and feel the loss as the loss of a family member. With me is the minister of the church, Reverend David Barr. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sir, tell me, first of all, to the world she's the Queen. To the people here, she's a family member. How do you remember her as a child and now?
Oh, well, as a child I wasn't here, I was in Glasgow. But when I've been up here for 8 years, and Her Majesty is somebody special. She always has been somebody special. But there's a slight difference. When she comes to Balmoral, I think the anecdote way is saying that she leaves her crown at the gate, and when she then steps through, she's allowed to be a wife. When she to her late husband, she's allowed to be a mum, and she's allowed to be a gran and a great gran, and that's important to have that balance. But she wouldn't be able to have that anywhere else. Also, in the village here, she used to, when she was younger, be able to come in and peruse the shops. But even up until last year and just before COVID, there's a little restaurant just outside the village where she would go drive herself, sit down with her scarf and have a cup of tea and a scone. And people who would happen upon this little cafe stroke restaurant sitting there and come in and having teas would oblivious that the little old lady sitting there was Her Majesty the Queen. And I think she got a wee kick out of that as well.
Tell me about the Queen consort and her little prancing in the village.
She will come into the village and she'll regularly go and get her Radio Times paper. Or she'll come in and she'll maybe have a cup of coffee or go to the local ice cream shop with her grandchildren and have that normal life. And as you mentioned just there earlier, at the moment is the time to speak about the royal family with love and care and compassion that we have. Few weeks down the line, when the situation has moved forward, if I was to come across yourself, although you're beautiful and charming, and you asked me, did I speak to any royals, and if she was just round the corner, I would, even though I'm a man of the cloth, I would lie through my teeth and say, no, I haven't. No,
what
I haven't.
Allegiance? Why?
The allegiance is because of one simple thing. Her Majesty, she's been up here her whole life. Even when King George was here, she wasn't meant to be Queen. Two, when she came up here, she's been up here her whole life. But she's been our Queen and Sovereign and given 70 years. 70, just imagine that. That's more than my lifetime, and I'm an old codger. 70 years of her life in service to this community, this country, and the Commonwealth. So we want to do something back and
protect it, of course,
protect it.
because this is where she felt like a person, and you want that to be. Now that you can for a little bit tell me any personal interaction with her or any personal memory with her?
One memory that stands out would be 1996. 1994 into 1995, half of this village was wiped out with a terrible flood. And the half of the village had no homes moved into the people that did have homes, and we shared. But there was a lot of volunteers, and Her Majesty wanted to give thanks personally, meet these individuals and personally give thanks, because the people that they helped are her neighbours and she knows them by name. So as she approached, there was a gentleman next to my wife who was the same age, or just a year younger, and he had indicated that his father was the electrician on the at the time of her father. He was the electrician on the castle. And she turned to the gentleman, and I will just say she mentioned his name, her father's name, and he went, yes. And she just looked the gentleman, and bearing in mind he was 19, she was 91 at the time, and she said, do you not remember Hugh? We used to play together as children.
Beautiful.
And Hugh just smiled, because he was not going to be presumptuous to bring that up. And then they went into this conversation of how they played and how they played poo sticks for like winning the poo on the together. And I witnessed that beauty of that compassion of, and then it was two lovely old friends coming back and just chatting about childhood memories.
Oh, beautiful! Absolutely, what a memory and what a gesture! I must say, I think that's what
beautiful.
Made her the queen that she is.
Yes.
Really. Now it's King Charles III. How do you think he's going to survive or bring out the legacy?
Well, King Charles, I'm a bit like you. I'm strong, because for my whole life I've known him as the Duke of Rothesay, which is his title up here in Scotland. So King Charles III stays no further than a mile and a half from where we're standing at the moment, in Buckhall. So he's even closer than Her Majesty the Queen, and this is a major part of his community as well. So I'm sure with all his new regal duties, he might not be able to engage as much, but I can honestly assure, knowing him very personally, he will engage as much as he can get away with. He definitely will.
He's very outspoken. Has he expressed anything in person to you that you remember?
Yes.
Oh, go on then.
During the same floods,
Yeah.
he made sure that this place had electricity, this place had food. He came down with the Queen Consort to look round and speak to the families, and this I will tell you. And he came round, and then he got his aide to call and say it wasn't enough. They wanted to do something, because the people that they know were their friends, and they felt compelled, like any friend would, to do something. And I said, well, he can't move furniture because he's and a sore back and everything else. And I said, well, maybe he could come down and speak to the folk, because the church, everywhere was wiped out, no electricity, but we were able to cook food in the church. So people were coming as the centre of the hub and they were getting fed. And he said, we could make soup and cake. So that night, then the Duke of Rothesay, Prince of Wales, now our King Charles III, and Her Majesty the Queen Consort made soup.
Oh wow! And
not designated staff to make the soup.
They made the soup themselves.
They made the soup, and the Queen Consort made this thing up here called black cake. It's a lovely treacly type cake, and it was brought down. And they
was it tasty? I want to know.
It was beautiful. Now, when I was telling the cake, that the people were saying, "Oh, this is the best cake." You know, who made the cake? And I said, "That's the Duchess of Rothesay made the cake." And they went, well, they came out and they were saying yes, and they didn't believe us. And then they were eating the soup and that, and they came in to see how people were.
But, oh, brilliant. Did
And
you
they
have
were
soup
looking-
and a bite of a
Oh,
cake?
too right. I'm not passing that up, even though I wasn't on it. I had a wee taste
No,
of
no,
it.
no. Did they have it? Is what I meant.
No, they
No.
didn't.
Okay,
They didn't
like a
have
perfect
it.
toast. Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. What a memory.
yeah.
And what a beautiful anecdote. I really thank you
Yeah.
for that, really. He won't speak much, but he did speak a little about the beautiful moments and anecdotes that the people of this village, Ballater village, share with the Queen and his family. Really their own family, their neighbors, who they will really remember. And going on from now, once out of here, they will stop speaking much more about it. बालमोरल और उसके आसपास के लोगों के लिए अपनी क्वीन को अलविदा कहने का आखिरी मौका। यहाँ से क्वीन का कॉफिन एबरडीन और डंडी होता हुआ एडिनबरा पहुँचेगा और यहाँ के लोगों के लिए वो सिर्फ क्वीन नहीं थी बल्कि एक पड़ोसी थी और एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली यानी परिवार का एक हिस्सा भी थी। This quaint little village of Ballater, and just round the corner, a few miles down this road, is Balmoral Castle, where the Queen came for her summer break. And the people around here remember her fondly, and so does Alistair, who has a hardware shop just across the road, used to fit television in the palace a few years back, and remembers the Queen going round here. Please tell me your memories of the Queen in this area.
Well, it's happy memories, but I didn't meet her that often. But I saw her round about the Balmoral, and we would speak to one another if the case arose. But generally speaking, everyone kept their own sort of ground. I was a lot younger then, and you learn that as you get older, it's you become a lot more.
You let them be because
be,
they're
yes,
on their
let them
break.
be.
Now
Yes,
that's what I've
exactly.
heard a lot
Yes.
from them. So what is it that you remember about the Queen most?
Well, I think when we did this cairn down the road, you've probably seen the cairn down there. That was really the highlight of my lifetime of meeting the Queen, and it really was a super, what would I say, thing for the village to do, and a small village to recognise her as our diamond jubilee.
So would she come and speak to you? Or do you remember anything that she must have spoken?
No, not really. Just general conversation, like the weather or whatever the case may be. Just the usual thing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember times when you fitted television? Was there anything that you would remember that?
Well, when things broke down, it was a wee bit tricky because it's back in the early days of black and white television.
Right.
And latterly it was colour television, and things improved. Balmoral was not the best place for getting good reception. It's away in the hills, really, but things have changed. So.
What does it mean for the Queen to have passed for the people of Balmoral?
I don't know. Balmoral estate is different to what it used to be. People don't stay there as long as they used to. The old joiner or plumber or painter would be there for his lifetime, and everybody got very familiar with one another. But things have changed now, and sometimes the staff, there's not the same number of staff.
What are your views of King Charles III now?
I think he'll do a good job. He's going to have a hard job, and let's hope he's not too busy in his job, because we still want to see him in Ballater.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you
Okay,
very,
cheers.
very
Okay.
much. Alistair there, who is hoping that he will be able to see King Charles there more often like he used to. Just the shop behind is where he owns that shop. And people, a lot of shopkeepers here, let me just show you around. Small shops everywhere, and a very small little quaint place. They quite fondly remember the Queen just driving past from here casually normally, and usually the people would not stop and bother her or the royalty, because they after all came to Ballater in their castle Balmoral for a break. In Ballater, I'm here with John Sinclair, who is the owner of this butcher shop, and he has met Queen 6 times, and she has even come to his shop. First of all, my condolences for her passing away, but how do you remember her, John?
The very first time I met the Queen was at a garden party at Balmoral, and I was told I had to go and meet the Queen. So I was very nervous, and I approached the Queen, and I couldn't believe how small the Queen was. I was looking down at her, but in her first words she says, "Oh, you're the other half of the partnership of the butchers." And I says, "Yes, how lovely to meet you." And I remember that, and then she just made me feel relaxed after that.
Oh,
was
that's
good.
beautiful. What a lovely memory. Anything else you remember of her? Any anecdote or anything that she said to you that over a period of time then?
We were fortunate enough to have the Queen visit our shop in 2016 after Ballater was flooded in the 30th of December 2015. The devastation in the village was about 4 or 5 feet of water right through our buildings, and we had to close for about 3 months, and the Queen arranged to come to the village to meet all the shopkeepers, business owners, and she came to our shop first, and she met all the staff, and she said how lovely to see everyone back in operation again after what was a very devastating event.
Oh,
She
indeed.
was very pleased for everyone.
Indeed. This was her summer retreat, and I've heard people say that they have seen the royalty come and walk by, and she herself going by. What does this loss mean to you as a person who lives in Ballater?
Oh, it's a
For
huge-
how many years?
Well, I've stayed here all my life, and it's a huge loss. I remember coming to wave the Queen through the village, standing the street with a little Union Jack and waving to the Queen when I was about 5-year-old. To now, she's gone, and I actually got to know the Queen quite well in that respect. And for the Queen to not longer be here, it's a big loss. It's like losing one of your own family.
I understand. And now for King Charles III taking over the reign, you must have seen him around
Yeah.
as well. What are your thoughts on him as king?
Well, as the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Rossi in this area, for what the work he has done to our village, especially after the flooding, he's contributed a lot of his own money and through the trust and everything, and he's made this village look absolutely wonderful again. And he's only a mile up the road, and he's our neighbour. And I hope he will still continue to come to Deeside and Burke Hall, and hopefully the family will meet here in the summertime again next year as a reunited family and celebrate the life of his mother and enjoy themselves up here again.
Brilliant, thank you very much. पूरी दुनिया के लिए क्वीन भले ही क्वीन हो, लेकिन इस गांव के लिए, बैलेटर विलेज के लिए वो पड़ोसी थी जो परिवार का सदस्य बन गई। छुटपन से उन्हें बढ़ते हुए देखा, फिर उनके परिवार वालों को देखा, उनका बचपन देखा, शादी देखी, उनके पति को देखा, उनके बच्चों को देखा, और अब उनके ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन और ग्रेट ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन को भी ये विलेज, ये गांव देख रहा है और यहाँ आते जाते देखता है। और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि घर की बातें घर में ही रहती हैं। इस परंपरा को कायम रखते हुए इस गांव के लोग बहुत ज़्यादा बातें क्वीन के परिवार की नहीं करते, क्योंकि घर की बात घर में रहती है। लेकिन अब जब आखिरी सांसें क्वीन ने ली और पूरी दुनिया यहाँ उमड़ पड़ी है, तो थोड़ी सी उनकी यादों के कोश में से हमें भी कुछ बहुत खूबसूरत मोती हमारे सामने लोगों ने रखे यहाँ पे, और कई लोगों ने कुछ नहीं भी रखा। तो जो नहीं बताना चाहते स्क्रीन पर, वो हम आपको छोटी सी बात बताते हैं। बहुत ही खूबसूरत बात है कि एक दफ़ा जब यहाँ टूरिस्ट घूमते रहे तो क्वीन यहाँ घूमती है। यहाँ की आप देखिए छोटी छोटी से कॉफ़ी शॉप्स हैं, इस तरह से हर जगह प्यारी प्यारी सी शॉप्स हैं। वहाँ पर आकर ख़ास तौर पर एक कॉफ़ी शॉप है, वहाँ पर आकर क्वीन अक्सर बैठा करती हैं, और वहाँ पर एक टूरिस्ट में उनको मिला, और क्वीन के साथ उस वक्त उनके गार्ड थे। तो टूरिस्ट ने क्वीन से पूछा कि आपने कभी क्वीन को देखा है, आप जानते हैं उनको? तो क्वीन ने कहा नहीं, मैंने तो बिल्कुल नहीं देखा, लेकिन ये जो मेरे बगल में खड़े हैं उन्होंने ज़रूर देखा है। तो फटाफट जो टूरिस्ट थे वो उनकी फ़ोटो खींचना उन्होंने शुरू कर दिया। तो इस तरह की, और एक बार नहीं हुआ ऐसा, कई बार उनके साथ हुआ। तो इसीलिए जब लोग कहते हैं कि उनके पास एक बहुत ही अच्छा सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर था, बहुत मजाकिया थी, तो जानते हैं लोग, लेकिन बहुत कुछ बताना नहीं चाहते। हमने कोशिश की है अपने इस एपिसोड में कि आपको हम थोड़ी सी जानकारी, थोड़ी सी क्वीन किस तरह की व्यक्ति थी, क्योंकि इस गांव ने उन्हें एज अ पर्सन, एज अ व्यक्ति, एक व्यक्तिगत तौर पर जाना है। हमें ज़रूर लिखें। हमारा ट्विटर हैंडल है @lavina_tandon या फिर chai@aajtak.com पर भी लिख सकते हैं। थैंक यू, टेक केयर एंड गॉड ब्लेस।